Hello, thanks very much for watching, and if you're not already, please do like and subscribe, and please do keep the comments coming. It's really nice to interact and to respond to questions and comments that you have. I really appreciate that. So what I wanted to do today was to talk a little bit about something I don't think I've really mentioned this year, even though I have been working obviously on this body of paintings about the local landscapes. I've not really talked that much about the finishing of paintings. I've talked a lot about gathering the studies and doing a lot of studies out on location in the landscape and then back in the studio. And I've shown you about starting paintings, about how I've been working in my sketchbook to develop and evolve my ideas about them. So I thought I would talk a little bit today about how you might know, or how we know when a painting is finished. And of course this is a really tricky thing. It is really difficult to have a sort of a very clear formula for this, and a lot of people talk about just a feeling. I remember one lady saying to me once when I asked her about her painting, and she was a figurative artist, and I asked her how she knew when her painting is done, and she said, when I've said what I want to say in that painting. And I guess that's the kind of crux of it, but it's around how you know when a painting is done, and how you might come up with something that kind of gives you some kind of clarity around your process. So what I thought I'd do today is just to share a little bit about how I've been going about that with my work. And as you know, if you've been watching me for a while, I'm developing this body of paintings about the local landscape. So it's moorland, woodland, the valleys in between. I'm based in Saddleworth in the UK, and a lot of this work, not all of it, but a lot of it is going towards a joint exhibition at Gallery Oldham called Landscape Inside Out, which starts in March 2022. So I haven't got so long now, so a lot of pressure to develop these works. And over the last month or two, I have been looking at the heather moors as one of my small topics that I've been looking at. And I've been going out in the landscape, you've seen a lot of that, and I've been working my sketchbook, and I've been developing a group of paintings. And I'm getting to the stage now where those paintings are getting closer to being finished. So of course this question about when they are cooked, when they are ready, when they are finished, when is that and how will I know? So as you know, I do quite a lot of work in sketchbooks, and this is the one that I talked about in a recent video about how I use my sketchbooks to develop my paintings. So of course I do jot myself notes about knowing when the paintings are finished, and so I'll refer to that as I go, but I've jotted down a few things around how I'm kind of starting to kind of clarify with myself where I'm at with the painting really. And this on the board here is one of my Heather Moors pieces, which is close to being finished. I think I might need to take a few more risks, but I think it's close to being finished. And so I thought I'd have this on here as reference. I'm not necessarily going to scrutinise it, but I will use it as a reference so that you can kind of clarify, you can understand what I'm saying a little bit more. So when I wrote my list, it occurred to me that this list was actually in three parts really. The first part is all about, have I got the feelings in the paintings that I want, and is it saying what I wanted to say about the subject? And then the next part is it technically working in terms of the composition and the tonal value and the colours and all of that? And then finally there's something at the end about risk taking. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of go through each of these points and as necessary refer to the painting to kind of clarify things. Okay, so in terms of the first part of it, which is about the feelings, I guess the first question for me is, and as you know, I go out on location, I do lots of studies, I bring them back, I do writing, I start to understand what it is and unpick what it is I'm interested in. I do a lot of studies to try and understand that, and the paintings themselves, I'm working out what it is I want to say about the subject. So the first question for me when I'm thinking, is this painting close to completion, is it finished, is it saying what I want it to say about the subject matter? And does it reflect my feelings about the subject and what I want people to feel when they see this painting. So I guess, and of course you can't, you know, people feel different things, and that's not, you know, controllable really, but it's, for me, do I think it actually reflects the feelings I want to express in the painting? So if I take this painting here, one of the things that is important to me about the heather moors, and which is quite interesting, is this whole idea, in this painting in particular, that the heathers, the moors aren't flat, although you might think, you know, yes, they're flat, they're a flat, you know, expanse if you're looking at a panoramic. But actually when you're on the moors, and when you're on the heather moors, and at the tops of the moors, you know, there's a lot of these bankings that come up and down, and you kind of, you know, going maybe along a pathway, and you're kind of feeling almost immersed. And part of that is because, you know, of the way the banking is and where the heather is. And that becomes accentuated when the heather's there, because you've got the aroma, you've got other things going on, you've got them, you know, almost sort of more, you see the shapes even more clearly of those domes, and they're very static because they, although they're twiggy and branchy, you've not got the movement. And the movement comes with the way the grasses are all around them. So hopefully in this painting you can see that that's, you know, that's what the light versus the dark is really all about. It's that movement of the grasses, and we'll come to that, and I'll talk to you about that, against the stasis of the heather. And am I creating that in my painting? So that's one of my questions. And then there's the question around, does it does the painting feel as one? Is it cohesive? Does it fit together? You know, are the elements of it, you know, working together, or are they too disparate? So that's the next thing. And then finally, question around feeling, and the feel of it is this painting authentic? Is it reflecting me? Is it my painting? Does it feel me? Feel, you know, mine? And I think, you know, with this, it certainly, as I've evolved it, it started to feel more and more like mine, and I've started to have that dialogue with the painting in a way that happens when you get closer to it being, it starts to give you something back. And until that point, it will never be finished, in my view. You've got to start having a dialogue with the painting without wishing to be too woo-woo. There has to be that two-way interaction. So those are the things that are all about the feelings, really. So that's the first part of it, and that's something that, you know, I don't necessarily sort of tick off a list, but I'm thinking about those elements. Is it expressing the feelings I want to reflect, to want to present here? Does it feel like me? Is it hanging together properly? And then, aside from that, there's also the technical aspects questions around, is it working as a painting? So there's the questions around the composition. Have I got, first of all, I mean, basically, is my eye being taken around the painting? Is my eye moving around the painting? Am I going in different areas of the painting as I look at it? So the question becomes, is there just a bullseye right in the centre that I'm just drawn to and I don't look at anything else? Well, hopefully not in this painting. Have I got different shapes, and am I able to weave in and out of the shapes? Is there enough contrast? So is there are there tonal value shifts? So have I got lights and darks in this painting, which I have. They obviously, the purples and the reds and the oranges are the darker colours. The yellows and the whites are much lighter. So is that tonal value range enabling the painting to be clear when you're looking at it? You can see what's going on. It's not all a mix together, because maybe the tonal range is all the same. It's all mid-value, for example, and hopefully that doesn't seem to be happening with this. And then you've got other questions around, does the colour work? You know, have I got colours that work together? Well, the colours here really are the purples and the oranges and the reds and the yellows. So the purples against the yellows, that's clearly opposites on the colour wheel, so they definitely do work together, and there's quite a tension between them. I've obviously got, you know, in terms of colour, I've obviously got the range of lights and darks, so that's working. And maybe have I got, you know, if I've got a lot of bright colour, have I got some less bright colour? So the more muted golds and less bright colours, the more muted violets here that are less intense because they've been desaturated. So that's kind of balancing things out a bit against the more bright colours. So those sorts of things seem to be working. And the textures and marks, I've got quite a variety. So it's very textured along here. It's much flatter over there. So I've got that variety. And then in terms of, one of the things around, within each of so I've got 3 essentially shapes here. Within each, I've got shapes that are different to each other. So I've not got all the same size. Some are small, some are large, some are long, some are more chunky. So, is there variety there? So I'm looking at all those different things around the variety and the differences within the painting. So those are really the sort of technical issues or technical questions that I'm, ongoing asking. And basically I do think that it's best not to think when you're painting, it's best to think when you're looking at the painting and then to paint. And that's something that I'm constantly trying to sort of grapple with, but I think that's quite an important thing actually to do that. So you get too thinky, it becomes far too tight. That's when I get personally into a lot of problems with my painting. So I have to really pull back from that. And then there's the question of, are there other issues? Is there something that is an issue? And fundamentally for me, one of the issues I've had is being able to create the movement against the stasis, against it feeling static, like the domes of the heather. It doesn't move as much, but the grasses do. So how do I get that in the painting? So that's been an issue, and I'll talk about that at the end, because that's where my risk taking and pushing things a bit comes into this painting. And then there's this big question for me is, does it still feel raw and not too polished? And hopefully it does. I mean, to me it still looks quite raw. I've got quite a lot of scratching marks. I've been very careful not to cover up as I've layered, so you see almost my workings out on the painting. So that gives a richness and an interest when you get close to the painting, because obviously the question is, does it work from afar in terms of the big shapes or the way it sits from a distance? But does it work when you get, what does the viewer get when they come close to it? What reward do they get for coming to look at it? So there's all of this textural layering. So that's something that I think is working, but it's also giving it a rawness that I'm really keen on. And the problem is, if you work things too much and you keep working it, that's when you lose it, because it becomes too polished. And for me, that's not what I want to do in my painting. I want there to be a rawness, an energy, a looseness. And that's what I need to be careful not to lose. And then finally, what I just wanted to mention is, so I've got the feelings. Does it feel like I want it to feel? Technically, is it working? And then the final thing, and the thing that I'm really important to me as well, is, have I been brave enough? Have I tried to push things for me, for where I'm at with my painting? Have I gone a bit of a step further? And one of the things I've been grappling with this group of paintings in particular is I've wanted to get this movement of the grasses against the stasis of the heather, the flatness of the heather. And this morning I decided I was just going to go for it, and I knew that drips weren't going to get it for me, because I tried that and it's still quite although it's dripping down, it wasn't the looseness I wanted. I've tried long sticks, I've tried all sorts. So I decided to literally make mixes of wetter paint, not too wet, but not dry either, because I was literally shaking my brush at it. Now, I'm pleased with the fact that it's given me movement. I don't know whether I've done enough yet, so I might well go back to it and re-look at it and say, do I need to do more? How much is enough? And that's a whole other can of worms, really. But that's hopefully you can see that there, and I'll do an overhead shot at the end so you can see it. And I've done a little bit there just so I can connect that in. So that is a risk I've taken. I thought I could destroy the painting. Of course you can seal it in so you could wipe it off, but I hadn't done that. I just wanted to go for it. So and I haven't done that before on this type of a painting, and so far it's working, but I don't know if I've done enough. Anyway, I hope that's been helpful. So I've just literally run through the sorts of questions I ask myself when I'm wanting to know whether my painting is finished. And hopefully that will be of interest. So thanks very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.